Welcome to my channel, my friends. Do you ever forget new English words the very next day? You study hard, but when you try to speak, your mind goes blank. You remember nothing. It feels like all your effort disappears overnight. Comment below if this ever happened to you. In this video, I'll show you how to learn new English words naturally, not just for a test, but for life. Stay with me till the end, because these 7 steps will completely change the way you remember and use English words forever. Chapter 1. The moment I realized memorizing doesn't work. When I first started learning English, I believed one thing. If I memorized more words, I would become fluent. So every night, I sat at my desk with a notebook full of English words. I wrote them again and again. I repeated them out loud until my voice got tired. I thought if I repeated them enough, they would stay in my mind forever. But the next morning, when I tried to speak, my mind went blank. The words disappeared like smoke. I couldn't remember even 5 of them. I felt stupid. I thought something was wrong with me. Why could other people remember easily, but I couldn't? I tried harder. I made flashcards. I stuck English words on my walls. I carried a small notebook everywhere I went. I studied on the bus, in the park, before bed. Still, when I wanted to use those words in real life, they didn't come. They were locked somewhere deep inside, refusing to come out. I would hear someone say, "How are you?" And I wanted to answer, but I could only say, "I'm fine." I knew more words on paper, but in my mouth, there was silence. It was like I had a dictionary in my brain, but no key to open it. One day, I was watching a movie. The characters were laughing and talking in English. Suddenly, I heard a word I knew: rain. I had written that word many times, but this time, it felt different. I could see the rain on the screen. I could hear it. I could feel it. That moment, something clicked. I realized that I remembered rain not because I memorized it, but because I felt it. It wasn't just a word. It was an image, a sound, a memory. That was the first time I understood that memorizing words doesn't help, living them does. After that, I started to notice something. The words I remembered best were the ones I used, not the ones I wrote hundreds of times. I remembered hungry because I said it when I was hungry. I remembered cold because I said it on a winter morning. I remembered happy because I used it when I felt happy. These words had life in them. They belonged to my experience, not just to my notebook. I began to see that my brain didn't love long lists, it loved stories. It remembered when something meant something to me. That day changed the way I learned forever. I threw away my old notebook. I decided to learn new words, like I learned my first language, naturally, through life, feelings, and moments. I stopped asking, "How can I memorize more words?" and started asking, "How can I live these words?" And you know what happened? The words started staying with me. They didn't run away anymore. When I spoke, they came easily, like they were waiting to help me. But it wasn't easy at first. My brain was still used to the old way: lists, repetition, and pressure. Sometimes I caught myself going back to that method. But then I remembered that English is not a list. It's a living language. You can't force it. You have to feel it, use it, and connect it to your real world. Every time I used a word naturally, I felt proud. It was like building a bridge between my world and the English world. One word at a time, the bridge grew stronger. I started to talk to myself using simple words. When I was cooking, I said, "I am cutting the vegetables." When I was walking, I said, I am going to the market. These were not hard sentences, but they helped me live with words. I didn't just study them, I experienced them. That was when I realized something powerful. The best English learners are not the ones who study more, they are the ones who live more with English. So if you are tired of forgetting new words, stop memorizing them. Start living them. Say them out loud when you see them. Feel them when you hear them. Use them when you can. Your brain will not forget what your heart feels. At the end of this chapter, I want you to remember one thing. Memorizing makes your brain tired, but connecting makes it alive. The secret to learning new English words naturally starts with how you feel about them. The next time you learn a new word, don't just write it. Speak it. See it. Feel it. Let it become part of your story. Because when a word lives inside your story, it never leaves you. Chapter 2. Words that live in your world. When I stopped memorizing and started living with words, English became more than a subject, it became part of my life. I realized that words are not just letters on paper, they are alive. They have feelings, sounds, and pictures inside them. And if you want to remember them forever, you have to bring them into your world. You have to let them walk with you, eat with you, and speak through you. That's when English becomes natural, when it stops being something you study and becomes something you live. I remember one morning when I was brushing my teeth. I looked in the mirror and said, I am brushing my teeth. It felt strange at first. My brain wanted to go back to silence, but I smiled and said it again, I am brushing my teeth. Then I said, this is my toothbrush. I touched it, I saw it, and I said the word. That was the first time I realized I could learn English just by talking about what I was doing. I didn't need a book. I didn't need a classroom. My life itself was my English lesson. That small habit changed everything. When I made breakfast, I said, I am cooking. When I walked outside, I said, I am going to the market. When I saw a dog, I said, it's a dog. Simple sentences, but full of life. Every time I said them, the words became part of my world. They stopped being foreign. They started to feel like mine. The more I used them, the more they stayed. You see, your brain remembers what it experiences. If you only read words, your brain doesn't care. But if you feel them, it remembers. When you say hot while drinking tea, your brain connects the word with the feeling. When you say cold while touching ice, your brain says, yes, I know this. That's how children learn their first language, not from books, but from the world around them. They see, touch, and speak at the same time. That's why they never forget. So I started learning like a child again. I spoke to the things around me. My chair, my bag, my cup, they all became my teachers. I said, this is a chair. It is brown. I sit on it. I said, this is my bag. It is heavy. It has books inside. These sentences were small, but they made English alive. I didn't wait for a teacher to tell me what to say. I made my own classroom, my room, my street, my kitchen, my whole world. Then something beautiful happened. I started to see English everywhere. When I walked past a signboard, I read it out loud. When I bought something, I tried to say it in English in my mind. Even when I was alone, English was with me. I wasn't just studying it, I was living with it. Every object around me became part of my vocabulary, and because those words were part of my real life, I never forgot them. I remember one evening, it started to rain. I looked at the sky and said softly, it's raining. I didn't think about grammar or spelling, I just said it. And at that moment I realized I was thinking in English. Not translating, not memorizing, just speaking naturally. That was the first time I felt free. English was not a stranger anymore. It was part of my voice. So, if you want to learn new words naturally, look around you. Everything you see can teach you something. Say the names of objects near you. Make small sentences. Talk about what you're doing. Describe how you feel. Don't wait for perfect grammar, just speak. Your world is your biggest classroom. Every sound, every color, every object is your teacher. At first, you may feel shy. You may think, I'm talking to myself. This is silly. But it's not silly, it's smart. It's how your brain starts connecting English to real life. The more you use your world, the faster English becomes part of you. You don't have to travel to an English-speaking country. You can create one around you, in your home, your room, your mind. And remember this, when words live in your world, they live in your memory forever. You don't have to fight to remember them, they'll come to you naturally. Every day, talk to your world in English. You'll see the difference in just a few weeks. Because the truth is, English is not something you study, it's something you live. It's already waiting around you, in your cup of tea, in your morning walk, in your reflection in the mirror. Just speak it, and it becomes yours. Chapter 3: The Secret of Repetition, but with Emotion. When I first learned about repetition, I thought it meant saying the same words again and again like a robot. I believed that if I repeated a word 50 times, it would stay in my memory forever. So I tried. I repeated words out loud until my tongue got tired. I said beautiful, 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 so many times that I felt bored of it. But when someone later asked me, "What a beautiful day, isn't it?" my mind froze. I couldn't remember what beautiful even meant. That's when I realized repetition only works when it has feeling. Our brain is not a machine. It doesn't just record sounds, it remembers emotions. When you say a word with a feeling, it becomes alive. When you say it without feeling, it's just noise. I learned this by accident. One day, I was feeling very happy. I looked in the mirror and said, "I am happy." I smiled as I said it. Later that day, I remembered that word perfectly. Another day, I was tired after a long walk. I said, "I am tired." My voice was slow, my body heavy, and suddenly I felt that the word tired fit perfectly with my feeling. It stayed in my memory because it was real. It was not a word anymore, it was an experience. That's when I started practicing repetition in a new way. I didn't just say words again and again, I said them with emotion. When I said cold, I touched something cold. When I said hot, I felt the heat of my tea. When I said sad, I remembered a sad movie. When I said excited, I smiled and moved my hands fast. I realized that my body and mind learn together. Words become stronger when they have life inside them. So now, every time I learn a new word, I try to feel it. If I learn angry, I make an angry face and say, "I am angry, Alim." If I learn hungry, I touch my stomach and laugh. This may look funny, but it works. Because emotion is the secret key that opens your memory. Your brain keeps what your heart feels. That's why songs, movies, and stories stay with us. They make us feel something. You can do the same with English words. One evening, I listened to a slow English song. The singer said, "I miss you." I had heard those words before, but this time I felt them. I understood what miss really meant, the quiet feeling of wanting someone who isn't there. That single line taught me more than 10 dictionary meanings ever could. I repeated it softly, "I miss you," not as a student, but as a person who felt it. Since that day, I never forgot that word. So when you repeat words, don't repeat them with fear or pressure, repeat them with life. Instead of sitting with a list, walk around your room. Say the words with different emotions. Smile when you say happy. Whisper when you say quiet. Shout when you say angry. Laugh when you say funny. Every time you connect emotion with a word, it becomes part of your memory forever. Repetition should not feel like work, it should feel like music. When you sing a song again and again, you never get bored. Why? Because songs have rhythm, emotion, and meaning. Make your English words like that. Play with them. Feel them. Act them out. Don't be afraid to be silly, that's how real learning happens. At first, I was shy. I thought, what if someone sees me talking to myself like this? But then I remembered something. When a child learns to speak, they repeat words hundreds of times, with full emotion, without shame. They laugh, cry, smile, shout, and that's why they learn fast. You can do the same. You don't need to be serious all the time. You just need to be alive with your words. One day, I tried something new. I took 10 simple words: happy, sad, tired, hungry, cold, hot, big, small, fast, slow. I said each one in a sentence, with real emotion. I am happy, Alim. I am cold, Alim. I am hungry, Alim. I repeated them, but not like a student, like a storyteller. After 1 week, those 10 words were part of me. I didn't need to remember them, they remembered me. That's the secret of repetition. It's not about saying words many times, it's about saying them with life, with feeling, with your whole heart. So the next time you learn a new word, don't just write it 10 times. Say it out loud. Feel it. Use your face, your hands, your voice. Make it part of your story. Because when you repeat words with emotion, you don't just learn them, you become them. And once that happens, you will never forget them. Chapter 4: Learning Words Through Stories. The Magic Trick. When I discovered the power of stories, my whole way of learning English changed. Before that, I used to memorize words alone, like pieces of a broken puzzle. I had apple red, eat, sweet, but they were all separate. I didn't know how to connect them. But one day, I read a short English story about a boy who loved apples. I read slowly, line by line. The boy eats a red apple. That one small sentence made everything clear. Suddenly, all the words connected. I could see the boy, the apple, the color red, and the action eat. I wasn't just reading, I was seeing English come alive. That's when I understood, stories are the magic trick to learn words naturally. When you learn words inside a story, your brain doesn't feel like it's studying, it feels like it's living. Each word has a home, it has a reason to exist. When you learn words from a list, they have no story, no picture, no emotion. But when you meet those same words in a story, they become your friends. You remember them without trying. Your brain loves stories. It's built for them. That's why you can remember movies you watched years ago, but not the list you studied yesterday. Stories connect memory with meaning. I started reading simple English stories every night. Children's stories were my favorite because they used easy words with big feelings. I read about animals, families, friends, and dreams. I didn't understand every word at first, but I could feel the meaning from the story. When I saw a new word, I didn't rush to the dictionary. I looked at the picture. I read the next line. I tried to guess what it meant, and most of the time I was right. That guessing made my brain active and curious. That curiosity helped me remember. Then I began to use those words in my own life. If I read a story about a cat, I looked at my neighbor's cat and said, "The cat is sleeping." If I read a story where someone said, "I am tired," I used it that night when I was tired too. Slowly, those words became part of my real world. Reading stories gave me new words, and using them made those words stay forever. One night, I read a story about a little girl who was afraid of the dark. I saw the word afraid. I knew it meant scared. But that night, when the lights went off in my room, I whispered to myself, I am afraid. I laughed because the word fit perfectly with the moment. From that day, I never forgot it. That's what stories do. They connect the word to your feelings. Once you feel a word, it never leaves you. Sometimes I didn't just read stories, I imagined them. I made small stories in my mind using new words. For example, if I learned rain, umbrella, and wet, I made a story. It is raining. I open my umbrella. My shoes are wet. It was simple, but it worked. I could see the story in my mind. I could hear it. I could even feel the rain. When your imagination joins your learning, you don't just study, you create. This is how I learned hundreds of words without memorizing. I made them part of small stories, sometimes real, sometimes imaginary. The more stories I told myself, the stronger my vocabulary became. Because every story built a small world in my head. Each world had words that belonged to it. Words I could visit again any time. You can start the same way today. Read easy English stories, from children's books, short videos, or even captions on social media. Choose what you enjoy. Don't worry about difficult words. Focus on the story. Feel it. Try to imagine it in your mind like a movie. Every time you read or hear a new word, put it into a story. Create your own sentence with it. Use your imagination. That's how English becomes real. And here's the most beautiful part. When you learn through stories, you don't just remember words, you understand people. You feel emotions, actions, and situations. You learn how words live together, how they help each other, and how they create meaning. That's what makes your English natural. So, if memorizing feels heavy, if studying words feels hard, stop for a moment and open a story. Let English come to you through imagination. Let the pictures in your mind teach you. Because every story is a bridge, it takes you from learning to feeling, from remembering to living. The magic trick is simple. Stop studying words, start living their stories. Once you do that, you'll never forget them again. Chapter 5. Speak the words, don't just know them. For a long time, I believed that knowing words was enough. I thought if I could read them and write them, I was improving. But one day, something happened that changed everything. I met a friend who also studied English. We had learned almost the same words, but when we tried to talk, something strange happened. He spoke fluently, and I stayed quiet. My mind was full of English, but my mouth was empty. That was the day I realized, knowing words is not the same as speaking them. Words only become real when you use your voice. I used to sit for hours reading word lists. I knew their meanings. I could spell them perfectly, but when I wanted to say them, I froze. My tongue didn't move. My brain became blank. I felt nervous, like the words were stuck somewhere between my mind and my mouth. Maybe you felt that too, when you know what you want to say, but it doesn't come out. That's not because you're bad at English, it's because you haven't trained your mouth to speak. The truth is simple, the more you speak, the easier it becomes. So I made a decision. I started speaking English out loud, to myself, to the mirror, to objects, even to my phone. The first time I tried, I felt embarrassed. My pronunciation was strange, my sentences were broken, and I made many mistakes. But I told myself, it's okay, no one is listening. This is my practice. Every day, I spoke a little. I described what I was doing. I am eating, I am writing, I am learning English. These sentences were small, but they gave me power. My brain and mouth started to work together. Slowly, English began to flow more naturally. Speaking changed everything. It made the words come alive. When you say a word out loud, it becomes stronger in your memory. You don't just think it, you feel it. You hear it with your own ears. You taste it with your own voice. That's how your brain learns deeply. Reading teaches your eyes, writing teaches your hands, but speaking teaches your whole body. It makes the words part of you. I remember the first time I spoke to myself in English for 5 minutes without stopping. I walked around my room, describing everything I saw. This is my bed. It is soft. There is a book on it. The window is open. I can see the sky. It felt amazing. I realized I didn't need anyone else to practice. I could create my own speaking world. I could train myself, just like a musician practices before a concert. At first, my sentences were simple, but I didn't care. I wasn't trying to be perfect, I was trying to be brave. And that's what I want you to remember. Fluency doesn't start with perfect grammar, it starts with courage. Every time you speak, even with mistakes, you are building your fluency. You are teaching your mouth to move, your tongue to shape new sounds, and your brain to trust your voice. I also started a small daily challenge. Each day, I chose 3 new words and made short sentences with them out loud. For example, if I learned morning exercise and energy, I said, I exercise every morning. It gives me energy. I repeated it again and again until it felt natural. Then the next day, I chose 3 more. Slowly, those words became part of my speaking world. I didn't memorize them, I used them. That's how learning becomes permanent. When I spoke English aloud, I made mistakes. Many of them. But instead of feeling bad, I laughed. I told myself, this is how children learn. And I was right. Children don't wait to be perfect before speaking. They speak first, and learn along the way. That's how they become fluent fast. You can do the same. So, if you want to learn new words naturally, don't keep them in your notebook. Give them a voice. Speak them out loud. Say them in sentences. Whisper them. Sing them. Shout them. Make them part of your daily speech. When you speak, you are not just learning, you are transforming those words into living language. One day, you'll notice something magical. You'll start speaking without thinking too much. The words will come to you like old friends, familiar, easy, and ready to help you express yourself. That's when you'll know that you don't just know English words anymore, you own them. Remember, this silence doesn't help you learn English. Speaking does. So start speaking today. Even if you speak to yourself, even if you make mistakes, it's okay. Because every time you speak, your English grows stronger. And one day, your voice will surprise you. Clear, confident, and full of life. Chapter 6. How to Review Words Without Boring Study. After I learned to speak words out loud, I faced a new challenge. How to remember them for a long time. I didn't want to forget what I had worked so hard to learn, but I also didn't want to study the same way I used to, sitting with notebooks and long lists, bored and tired. I wanted to find a way to review words that felt alive, not heavy. Something that made my brain smile, not sleep. That's when I learned a simple truth. Reviewing English words doesn't have to be boring. It can be fun, creative, and part of your daily life. At first, I thought reviewing meant reading the same list again and again, but that method never worked for me. I could stare at words for hours, but the next day they were gone. So I started to ask myself, how do I remember things naturally? The answer was simple. I remember what I see, what I do, and what I feel. So I turned my review time into a living experience. Instead of repeating words on paper, I started using them in my world. One day, I took sticky notes and wrote English words on them: mirador window, chair bottle. I placed each note on the object it named. Suddenly, my room turned into my English classroom. Every time I looked around, I saw words everywhere. When I opened the door, I saw door. When I sat down, I saw chair. I didn't need to study, I just lived with those words. Slowly, they became part of my life. This was my first fun way to review: see it, say it, live it. Then I tried something new. I turned review into a game. I challenged myself to use 10 English words every day in real sentences. I didn't care if the sentences were simple. For example, if my words were happy, book, morning, walk, and friend, I said, "This morning, I read a book and felt happy." Then I walked with my friend. I smiled as I said it, because I wasn't just studying, I was playing. And that's when learning became enjoyable again. I also started talking to myself in English while doing daily tasks. When I cooked, I said, "I'm cutting vegetables." When I cleaned my room, I said, "I'm cleaning my desk." When I made tea, I said, "I'm boiling water." These were small, simple actions, but they helped me review old words naturally. The best part was, I didn't need extra time. I was learning while living. Another trick I found powerful was using my phone in English. I changed my app language. I renamed my folders. I even wrote my reminders in English: drink water, call mom, go for a walk. Every time I read them, I saw English in action. It became part of my habits. My brain started to think in English without effort. That's what reviewing should feel like: effortless. Sometimes, before sleeping, I played a small memory game. I closed my eyes and tried to remember 5 words I used that day. Then I made a short story using those words. It could be funny or serious. It didn't matter. The cat is on the chair. The rain is falling. I am happy. Simple, but powerful. Because I didn't just repeat the words, I used them with imagination. That's how my memory became stronger. And here's something interesting. I noticed that my review time became shorter but more effective. When learning is fun, your brain learns faster. When it's boring, your brain wants to escape. That's why you must add emotion, play, and creativity to your review. Don't make English feel like a job, make it feel like a friend you enjoy spending time with. I also used music. I listened to English songs and tried to catch the words I knew. Sometimes I sang along, even if I didn't understand every word. The rhythm, the sound, the melody, all of it helped me remember. Music made the review joyful. I was learning without pressure. So here's my advice: stop reviewing like a student and start reviewing like a learner who lives with English. Use sticky notes, talk to objects, sing songs, tell short stories. Use your phone in English, describe your day out loud, and your words will never fade. You won't need to fight to remember them, they'll stay with you because they belong to your daily life. Remember this truth: boring study dies fast, but joyful learning lives long. If you make your review fun, your English will grow naturally, just like a plant grows when it gets sunlight every day. Keep your learning light, creative, and full of life. Review without studying, live with your words, and they'll never leave you. Chapter 7: The Day I Knew English Was Inside Me. There was a morning I will never forget. The sun was soft, my room was quiet, and I was making tea as usual. I wasn't studying, I wasn't thinking about English. I was just living my normal day. But then, without warning, something beautiful happened. I looked outside and said softly, "What a lovely morning." I didn't plan it, I didn't translate it. The words came out by themselves, smooth, natural, alive. In that small, peaceful moment, I realized something big. English was no longer outside me, it was inside me. I smiled because for years I had tried to remember words, to push them into my head, but now I didn't have to. They were already there, living quietly in my mind and heart. I wasn't forcing them anymore. They were part of me, like my thoughts, my emotions, my daily life. That was the day I understood what it really means to learn naturally. Learning English is not about filling your memory, it's about living with the language until it becomes your second voice. I thought about all the steps that brought me there. The times I spoke to myself when no one was watching, the small sentences I said in the kitchen, the stories I read before sleeping, the words I repeated with emotion, the objects I talked to, and the mistakes I made without fear. Every small thing I did, every moment I practiced, built this quiet confidence inside me. I didn't become fluent overnight. I became fluent by living English, not studying it like a subject. In that moment, I remembered my first days, sitting with a notebook full of words I couldn't remember. I used to feel lost, thinking English was something I had to chase. But now I knew the truth. English was never far away. It was always waiting for me to stop memorizing and start feeling. I learned that when you live with English every day, it stops being a foreign language. It becomes your friend. That day, I tried something. I walked outside and decided to think in English, not in my native language. I looked at the people, the trees, the street, and I described everything in my mind. The man is walking fast. The air feels fresh. The sun is warm. I didn't have to think hard. The sentences just came. I felt free. I was no longer translating. I was living in English. That night, I listened to an English podcast before sleeping. I didn't understand every word, but I felt calm. I didn't pause. I didn't check meanings. I just listened, and it made sense in its own way. It was like music, something my brain now understood without needing effort. That's when I realized English had moved from my mind to my heart. It wasn't just something I studied, it was part of who I was. And I want to tell you this, that day will come for you too. You will wake up one morning and notice that English doesn't scare you anymore. You'll start speaking naturally, without thinking. You'll understand sentences you never studied. You'll laugh at jokes, read signs, sing songs, and it will feel easy. That's when you'll know English is not a school subject anymore. It's your companion, your voice, your world. But it only happens when you stop chasing perfection. Don't wait for the perfect day, the perfect grammar, or the perfect accent. Just speak, listen, repeat, and live English every single day. Let it surround you, in your music, your thoughts, your small sentences. Because English doesn't enter your life all at once. It grows, slowly, like a seed. And one day, without realizing it, you'll find yourself thinking, speaking, even dreaming in English. That's the real success. Not memorizing hundreds of words, but feeling at home in a new language. That's when English stops being something you learn and becomes something you are. So today, promise yourself one thing. From now on, don't study English like a lesson. Live it like a lifestyle. Talk to your world in English. Think in English. Feel in English. And soon, you'll see, English will live in you too. If this journey touched your heart, take the next step today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Start living your English one small moment at a time. Comment below and tell me what English word lives inside you today. Like this video if it inspired you, and subscribe for more stories, lessons, and motivation. Remember, you're not learning English, you're becoming English. Every word you live brings you closer to fluency. Keep going, keep growing, and let English live in you forever.